Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Midnight Express is a 1978 prison drama film that was directed by Alan Parker, and it was adapted for the screen by Oliver Stone from Billy Hayes' 1977 memoir of the same name. It stars Brad Davis in the lead role, with a supporting cast of Irene Miracle, John Hurt, Bo Hopkins, Paul L. Smith, and Randy Quaid. The storyline follows Billy Hayes, played by Brad Davis, as a young American caught by the Turkish police while attempting to smuggle hash out of Istanbul. He's tried and sent to prison for 4 years, where he endures all manner of abuse. As he finishes up his time, he's shocked to learn that the Turkish High Court has added a further 30 years to his sentence. He is now thoroughly demoralized, and his life in prison grows increasingly unbearable until he concludes that escape is his only option. At the start of the film, we see Billy psyching himself up in an airport bathroom before he attempts to smuggle this hashish on board. His attempt to make a quick buck back in the United States is suddenly stopped when a security guard pats Billy down before boarding the plane. Immediately, the young American has a militia pointing their guns at him. This scene seems simply like a Hollywood exaggeration. However, during September of 1970, 4 airplanes had been successfully hijacked by the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine members. On flights departing from Brussels, Amsterdam, and other countries, they had managed to take over control of the planes with the help of handguns, grenades, and other explosive devices. This made airports in that area on red alert, and security was extremely tight. Billy Hayes' decision to strap the drugs to his body made it appear more like a suicide vest, and that in itself explains the initial overreaction from the airport security. Although the story is largely set in Turkey, the movie was filmed almost entirely in Malta after permission to film in Istanbul was denied. The end credits state that the movie was made entirely on location in Malta. However, background shots of Istanbul were taken by a small crew pretending to make a cigarette commercial. A made-for-television documentary about the film, entitled I'm Healthy, I'm Alive, and I'm Free, was released in January of 1977. It features commentary from the cast and crew on how they worked together during the production and the effort that it took from the beginning to completion. It also includes footage from the creation of the film and Billy Hayes' emotional first visit to the prison set. Now, there are quite a few differences from the book itself that are portrayed in the film. As Hollywood often does, they fictionalize a true story to make the movie more interesting. In the film, Hayes is in Turkey with his girlfriend when he's arrested, but in real life, he was traveling alone. Although Billy spent 17 days in the prison psychiatric hospital in 1972, in the book, he never bit out anyone's tongue, which in the film leads him to being committed to the section for the criminally insane. The book ends with Hayes being moved to a prison on an island from which he eventually escapes by stealing a dinghy and rowing 17 miles in a raging storm, then traveling by foot and by bus to Istanbul, and then crossing the border into Greece. In the movie, that passage is replaced by a violent scene in which he unwittingly kills the head guard who is preparing to assault him. This attempted physical sexual scene was completely fictionalized. Billy never claimed in the book to have ever suffered any sexual violence at the hands of his Turkish guards, wardens, or fellow inmates. But during his actual incarceration, he did develop a relationship with another man in the prison. The movie depicts Hayes becoming very intimate with a fellow prisoner named Eric the Swede, but stopping short of having a true physical relationship with him. On the night of the Golden Globe ceremony, Irene Miracle, who plays his girlfriend, tripped and fell as everyone was in a hurry into the ballroom. She was briefly trampled by this mob, and she wound up on the wrong side of the velvet cord, and she was unable to convince the security guards that she belonged inside the ballroom. Others in the group finally realized that she was missing and got security to let her in. By this time, she was an emotional wreck for the entire evening. In an interview, she said that her only concern about being topless in the film was what her father would think when he saw it. Otherwise, the scene really didn't bother her at all. But filming this scene proved to be fairly difficult because it had to be shot over 20 times. They actually built a privacy box so that only Brad Davis and the director of photography could see what was happening. She herself really had no problem doing the scene, but it was made harder by the thought of shooting this scene over and over with an entire crew staring at her. So that's the reason they made the privacy box, to make her more comfortable. Now, speaking of that scene was an intense thing, but it could have been a more shocking scene than it was. Originally, Maureen McCormick, who played the teenager Marsha Brady in the family sitcom The Brady Bunch, auditioned for the role of Susan, doing this in hopes to revive her career and break away from that good girl image that followed her everywhere. She was completely willing to do the nudity that was required. She was called back a few times for different auditions with the director Alan Parker, but ultimately she was turned down because he felt her being well known for the Brady series would be a distraction to the film. Now, can you imagine that? If this film had Marsha Brady with her top off in this scene, this would have turned audiences upside down. Go back and take a look at this really raw film. It's a pretty shocking deal. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.